Hello and welcome to the KickSaaS Podcast. I'm your host, Jono Landon, and in this podcast, we share excerpts from live, in-person SaaS growth events that I run in my hometown of Toronto, Canada. A little about me, I'm the founder and CEO of Hubbli. We're a B2B SaaS company that helps private schools find new families to enroll and engage them throughout the entire enrollment journey. This episode is a recording of a recent roundtable discussion that I facilitated at the Hubbli head office on the topic of SaaS lead generation strategies. So we're going to jump right into this episode, and I hope you enjoy this format and the content we go through here. And I look forward to sharing future episodes with you from these live SaaS growth workshops.
All right, so why don't we start with I put together a list of key questions, but anyone can ask questions to everyone as well. Why don't we start with you, Jono?
Sure.
Can you tell us how you generate sales lead for Hubbli?
Sure. So, so in our space, we're targeting small private schools. So these are a very particular kind of business, and one of the benefits of the many challenges of working with schools is they're really easy to generate leads for, depending like if you have the right product. So if we're selling to the school leadership, the administration. So what's really cool is if you call them, the person that picks up the phone is actually like who you're trying to close. So there's no like gatekeeper, which is awesome. So always try to find a product for the gatekeeper. That's what I always suggest to people. It's like everyone's like, oh, the gatekeepers. I'm like, why don't you sell something to the gatekeepers? Because they always pick up the phone. So that just kind of happened. So when we started off, we were able to just literally cold call and close sales. And so that was great, but obviously it's the slowest and the hardest. And as soon as we were able to, I started testing like paid traffic into originally paid traffic basically from Facebook into the website, where I just had a very kind of basic button to schedule a demo. And so we would generate demos that way. That was like the initial kind of paid traffic funnel. And that had, at that time, our cost of acquisition was like almost 10 times what it is right now. So like, it wasn't, it was okay, but it really was quite challenging. It took many calls there was a lot of no-shows, and it took many calls to close the deal. And there's a number of ways that we've optimized the sales funnel to improve the cost of acquisition and shorten it. But as far as generating the leads at the top of the funnel, the two, we've been developing a lot of content, a lot of blog content that gets organic opt-ins. What I've been developing over the last few years is trying to continuously add layers of hi there, come on in. Layers of education and qualification between the initial opt-in and the sales call. So at this point, if I could get this projector to work, I would kind of show you my our whole funnel, but I'll just kind of describe it. Like, so now instead of just Facebook ad to the website and a demo sign up and then a demo, it's Facebook ad into a webinar registration. They come into the webinar for an hour, they come out of the webinar, then they book a consultation, and they're like 80% sold by the time they show up. And there's of course many other steps and automation in between like every stage of that. So this is a very high level explanation of it, but that is how we are generating very, very hot leads now that close. Like the cost of acquisition has gone from like $1,200 down to under $150. So, so that that's been the 2 years. So, you know, I'm not sure.
Was that all trial and error as you went through that process, or were you following methodology from others that got you there?
Yeah, I was, well, it's a little of both. Like, you know, I really wanted to try webinars. I just realized like this market really needs to be educated on. I mean, like they're really, it's a great opportunity because it's like this land grab. Like, you know, for our market, they are business owners that are actually teachers. Like they're teachers running businesses. So like they're missing any kind of business education or experience. They just go from teacher to like all of a sudden they're running a $10 million annual organization with no training in between, you know? So, so it takes a lot of education for them to just kind of realize just how poorly they, and just in general, the industry does things. So the education is really essential, and that's a great opportunity to create like piping hot leads that are like on the brink of closing, you know, because you're really opening their eyes up for the first time to these things. So if you can get people into that position, it's wonderful for sales. They're not a sophisticated market, so it's not like a bunch of signal that you have to cut through, where they're hearing the same thing all the time from a bunch of different people, right? So, but it's the other challenge is like you got to get them into that place and get them to open up their mind.
So I noticed that your webinar was quite long. Is that normal in webinars? I thought it was excessively long, but obviously it works for you.
How long is it?
Yeah, it's an hour plus. Like
yeah,
it's an hour plus. It goes on.
Is it a live webinar or it's a recorded
It
webinar?
was like, you know, it's now they enter into, they think it's a live webinar. It's an evergreen webinar. And, yeah, and we use a tool that makes it seem live, and they do think it's live, and they answer questions that I ask all the way through. So it really works.
So what if they have a question? What if they have a question? Like,
they chat and they see their chat, and if I wanted to be, or somebody could be there live responding, but you know, there's like, I think the first time there was an attendee to the first time I did the live webinar, or like the one that was recorded, probably had like 30 attendees. Now it's got like almost 1,000, because they just keep on piling on and adding on, and everybody's answers, like, I'm like, you know, I ask her like, where are you from? And it's like, Houston, Texas, like all of these people. And then, so you look really impressive because, wow, there's so many people here watching this guy. But they don't know that that's been like collecting on for like almost 6 months. So, but as far as length goes, you got to find the right thing. Like it's, so part of it is, you know, when I decided to try the webinar thing, the first opportunity I had was with a channel partner that is an association of schools, and they asked me to present in their webinar. So I did that. And so interesting little side note, I was like, okay, well, I've never made a webinar before. How do I do this? So I just went to, so I have a service that writes our blogs for us. So I took one of their blogs because it was on the right topic, and I used that as a roadmap. So it was a well-written blog. It was a good roadmap of, you know, and I was like, okay, well, because that's like the hardest part when you're trying to make something like a webinar or or a course or something. It's like, what's the roadmap? Like, where am I going with this thing? So I just used that, and then I just made a bunch of slides according to every sort of point in that, and that was how I started. And then and that turned out really well. And from doing those webinars live, I was like, oh, I got a bunch of demos out of it, and I got sales out of it. And I was like, okay, well, this works well. So then I looked into like webinar courses. So I bought one of these webinar guru courses, and you know, I bought more than one of them, and I went through more than one of them. And what the real value was, like, you know, I think Amy Porterfield, I think that's like, she's like one of these webinar guru people. And I went through it, and, you know, I got her template, and I used her template to, you know, just plugged in my content into her template, and it worked well. And it worked well because ultimately sales is sales, you know. if you take your cues from the most salesy infomercials, you're smart. Like, because humans make purchasing decisions the same way, no matter where you are. And we go through a cognitive process when we make a buying decision, and that process shortens or lengthens depending on the size of the decision, but we go through that model. So, like from an infomercial to a webinar to a mailer that comes into your mailbox, those direct mailer things, I mean, they have all the elements that humans need to make a buying decision. So something that I realized recently was like, because we're selling in the education sector, and so I'm part of like a lot of ed tech meetups and things like that. And I was showing this group my webinar, and they're like, "Wow, that's like really salesy. Like, how do you approach this market like that?" And I'm like, well, because like sales works. Like you can't, if you don't do it this way, you won't close the deal. So what I realized was, like, when you're watching an infomercial, like, whatever it is, like Ginsu knives or a slap chop or whatever it is, like, it seems ridiculous because you're not the person that has that problem that he's speaking to. But when you are that person, like when you're in that target zone, you're just eating it up because you all of a sudden you activate as the buyer, right? And so all of that really salesy, all those sales elements now mean something to you, and you're responding to it because it's taking you through the process that you want to go through because you've got the problem that they're talking about, right? So whatever it is. So I think that's the thing that I've learned really over the years is, some people are like, they're cringy around, salesmanship and overly salesy landing pages, but those things work, and you really got to use them. And if you're not, like, that should be your starting point.
So at the beginning, you're already trying to sort right out of the gate. So when they come in, you're hitting them right over the head and saying, hey, either this is for you or it's not for you.
Well, that's what marketing is. Marketing is helping people, to take themselves out of like filter themselves out. Like,
right,
you don't want to be the last thing. I mean, nothing.
I think that's a key point, because I found a lot of the people I interact with are trying to hold as much of that basket as possible, when really they just need to be getting rid of it,
right?
And just whittling it down as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
May I ask, so are you doing subscription, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it like monthly, annually?
Well, we've moved more to annual,
Okay.
but we started out doing like monthly, quarterly, and annually.
Okay.
So we used to be basically almost predominantly all monthly.
Yeah.
And then I've just realized if I can close them on an annual subscription, so why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you find that these efforts are more towards the larger price point packages.
Well, so interestingly, like when I was doing monthly, it was a way harder sale.
Yeah.
And it was much, this was kind of the topic of the last meetup, where it was like much more, here's the backup pizzas. If anyone, dig in. What was I saying? So there's so many elements to optimizing a sales funnel. Part of that for us was to stop solving everybody's problems. Like, we were just solving too many problems for too many people, and it just made the sales process way more complex and longer than it needed to be. And then we offer the same platform, but we sell it. We're focusing on one problem at a time now in our sales, so we're closing way faster on annual subscriptions that are actually twice valued on a monthly basis, twice as much as it was before, over twice as much, and it's way easier to close. Same customer, same platform, you know what I mean? So, by going annual, like the ticket price went, like the sales cycle shortened and the ticket price went up.
But why is the annual subscription easier to sell than the monthly?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's easier, but it hasn't slowed me down at all. And my sales metrics have improved like drastically. So I just can't imagine why I would go monthly. Like, I don't think they're going to get any better.
If there's no resistance to the sale, then just go for the bigger, go for the money.
Right.
Why
Yeah.
not?
So it's just something that you'll figure out about your market
Yeah.
and your buyer. And if, and you got to ask, like, you just got to always ask for more.
So you said you're using some software for the direct webinar?
Yeah. So for that, so my funnel has like four different like sort of SaaS products that I, are all patched together. And then I have like an analytics package that sucks everything in to track, the metrics. But so for that tool, I use Webinar Jam. So Webinar Jam is just, so they have two products basically. One's just an upgrade. So Webinar Jam is like the live webinar version. And then EverWebinar is an upgrade. And that allows you to just take any one of your live webinars that you've done and just convert it to an evergreen webinar. And, so basically, you've done all the work of doing it live. Now it's just like one click and you've got your evergreen webinar.
But if someone asks you a question in that live evergreen webinar, how do you answer? Like, is it?
Well, so they do have a feature where you can log in to respond to chats live if you want to. I don't want to. So I get, basically on a daily basis, I get a notification from Webinar Jam saying you've got like 25 new chat lines. So I can go in and approve them to be part of the next run of the webinar, or delete them, or I can insert answers to them, even from fake people. Like they've thought about everything. And these guys they're good. They're really good.
And you mentioned you use some blogging service. Which one is this?
Blogging? Yeah. So I can't speak highly enough about these guys. So it's a company called Audience Ops. Audience Ops, OPS, one word. So the guy's name is Brian Castle. He's got a podcast that I've been listening to for years, and it's like it's just like the real basic best practices of like what every SaaS business needs, like a weekly blog service. Then they started a podcasting service. So I do both, and literally they supply the podcast host. I just have to show up to a monthly like Zoom call, and their podcast host interviews me on the topics I want them to talk about. They research them and all that stuff, and they cut it. They make the blog article. They do everything around it too, like transcription. They post it in Buffer to all my channels, like send it the newsletter for me. It's like everything just perfect as you. So they actually, so originally, before this guy Brian launched Audience Ops, he had a SaaS. He exited a SaaS product, and then he developed this productized service. Was what he coined it. And then he actually has like an online course about productizing services. And then he's now building, he just launched like a new like project management, SaaS project management geared towards a productized service type of team, where it's like, so this typical SaaS bootstrap story where you create a service and then, then you make tech to make your services more efficient, and then you sell the tech, that type of thing. So,
where are they based?
Oh, his whole team is virtual, distributed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I would definitely, so their service is great. So just to give you a sense of the quality of their content. So the head of the International Montessori Foundation, and who's an author, and he's like one of the biggest names in the industry, he like saw one of my articles, went through the e-course that those guys wrote, and then asked me if he could publish that e-course in their magazine that goes out to like 30,000 schools. I was like, yeah. and now that guy's sitting on my board. Like, you know, it's like one of the most, I mean, strategic, you know, then he became a customer, and then he, you know, became an investor and a board member. So all because of their blog articles and their e-course. So yeah, it's really, really, really high quality content. So at basically a quarter of what it would cost to like hire somebody, you know.
What's the price point?
Yeah, I think it's basically 1,000. It's like it's like 1,000 for every other week, or 2,000 for every week. So I do the every other week with both the blog and the podcast. So basically my list gets either a new blog article or a podcast episode every other week. Like every week there's something happening.
Oh.
And we, you know, basically it's so $2,000 for this week. Yeah.
It wasn't for 2 weeks, is it? 1,000 per week?
500 per week.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, what marketing automation tools do you use, and does it hook into webinar channels? So like,
Yeah.
would you be able to score based on if they ask a question or something?
Yeah. So I use Infusionsoft, which is like more for a small team because we're not that big right now, and I mean, everything is a marketing automation tool. So there's like I use lead pages for the landing pages, and everything ties into each other, and everything ties into Zapier. So, you know, everything tags everything. So, so it's like lead pages is the landing page, and then that puts them into Webinar Jam. Webinar Jam handles like the reminder sequence to get them to show up, and then that, depending on what they do in Webinar Jam, it tags them in Infusionsoft, where they also initially get entered into after the opt-in, and then depending on, again, if they attend it or if they miss it, they get different sequences from Infusionsoft, and then it goes on. But yeah, so it's and then I use this tool Funnelytics to track. Funnelytics just lets you again suck in all the engagement from multiple platforms, and kind of manage your UTM strategy and everything. So Funnelytics is it's a new tool, but it's like everything I've been looking for, you know, in that sense. So you can patch together whatever you want. Because I find like there's like things like ClickFunnels, which is like a good all-in-one, you know, funnel builder, and it has its own analytics package. But any all-in-one platform I find is like, because ClickFunnels has its own webinar feature, but it doesn't have nearly the features as Webinar Jam, you know? And so, yeah, so I like to patch things together more than stick with it all in one.
The question that I had was, you mentioned that the cost of acquisition is now down to, say, less than $150 per lead. Where did it start? Like, how has the experience been over a year and more?
Where did it start? It started at around 1,200. Yeah, but that was like a couple years ago. Yeah. So
and it's consistently gone. I mean, is it stabilizing at this mark? And you're happy?
well, you're always working at it. Thanks for coming. Yeah, you're always working at it. But yeah, good to see you. Sorry, what was the question? I got distracted.
The cost.
Yeah.
It went from 1,200 to about
Yeah.
150. Is it stabilizing around that mark? Like, has it been this?
It's been consistently coming down.
Still.
Well, I don't know if it's going to get much lower than this.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So what's like, sort of
So the things that might bring it,
last 3 months
yeah, the things that might bring it down now is like that's exclusively based off Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So you know, getting better at you know, again, there's multiple conversion points,
Yeah.
so one thing that really was quite interesting is you know, so you got to figure out which lever really changes the metric the most. I found that certainly so the biggest shift was getting away from just landing page demo opt-in, like hit the website, sign up for a demo, like that's when it was $1,200, right? So they just sign up for a demo. It was like probably a 30% show up rate. Like it was really frustrating. It was like $40 a demo at that time, and so all of those, and then multiple meetings to actually get them to close, and it was very complex, and too many people were required for a decision. Then adding in the webinar was a remarkable change as far as quality of, first of all, show up rate and quality of demo and conversion rate on the demo. So that really, because they were like pre-sold, they essentially, the webinar is selling them, right? Like, so the key to using a webinar is like you're showing them your product, but they're coming in for, they know they're coming in to be demoed something, but you're offering real value. That's a real takeaway that really they're educated. And so you can't just fake it. You really got to dig in and make a great webinar.
In my view, the webinar allows you the opportunity to go and tell the story beyond just the product. And
Totally.
if you're in a business discussion, sometimes you have the liberty, but that only happens in sort of account management when the relationship is built to a certain point that you can take it beyond what you're really looking to do in the shorter run, which is convert. The webinar allows you that hour or whatever to really build the story. And I would think if you look at it from sort of, in a pictorial way, if we're just doing the sales, our funnel tends to be smaller, sort of drop in and take someone in. But with the webinar, you're literally widening the top of the funnel because you're talking about these things more as, subject matter expert or touching their business points, and then they can relate. Not just to, as a salesperson, you tend to kind of go through this whole process, right? Okay, here's our product, here's competition, here are our USPs. And that's how you've got to do it because that's the efficient way of doing it. But whilst the webinar is happening, sometimes you're discussing a larger topic and then that resonates with the audience more than anything else. Just that one thing you say about, something that's got to do with school that is doing. And that's like, they feel that trust level, that comfort.
Yes.
And that kind of just says, okay, fine, I'm just going to buy this anyways. And if these people think this way about my process or know so much more about my process than I do, especially as Jono points out that in his scheme of things, the audience is ready to be educated as long as being the buyer. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why the webinar would be succeeding tremendously in your practice.
Right, and all the more so if this is all really new to them. So you, as any sales requires, like you need to sort of flash your badge, make them think that you are like a real expert in the space, like they want to talk to experts, they want to be sold by experts. Everybody wants to buy from an expert, and then you need to show your credibility, and you got to sales and marketing is a process of building trust with people, right? It's like every stage of the process is just more and more trust until someone's willing to part with their hard-earned money. So, so the more you can sort of like speak to their pain and show how you're going after, you're trying to slay the dragons that are coming after them and all that stuff. Like that is like that's like people come out of my webinar and they're like, when they show up, like they tell me I really understand them, like they're. And that's why I like about niche marketing, because you can really understand this, like my customer base is a very tight profile. Like they are so consistent. And when I build a business, I look for that, like I'm looking for a consistent buyer persona that I can craft the perfect, sales experience for, and figure out what they need and figure out how to, talk to them. And the more you niche down into a market, that's one of the benefits of niching down to a niche market, is that you can learn that and really, have a very concentrated laser that shoots more powerful. Anyway, so so the webinar was a huge shift in the conversion, and then my next kind of revolution was I started. So I started selling. I wanted to see like my product. I could not get my customers to buy my product in the webinar without a sales call. It's not going to happen. But I wanted to see if I could create like a middle purchase that gets them to become a customer, because once somebody pays you money, psychologically you're in a completely different basket in their head, right? So it's like they've paid. So what I started doing, I tried first selling a course, and I didn't create it. I just pitched it, and nobody bought it in the webinar. So I was like, okay, I got some interest, but nobody actually purchased it.
This was like a trial test.
Yeah. So like I did the same webinar, but then on the end I tagged, like I just swapped what I was pitching at the end of the webinar, and I tried selling a course. And I worked hard, and I really, I put a lot of effort into trying to sell that, and it didn't fly. And then what I did is I tried selling. Well, what worked was selling a slightly cheaper offering, but just like a $97 consultation. So instead of booking a free consultation, they paid for it. And I worked hard to sell it. Like, I'm going to give you these deliverables. It's going to, So, and that worked. Like they started purchasing. So in the webinars, I was actually this automated evergreen webinar. I started making sales, and that was the first time I was like, holy shit, I'm just selling something in the actual webinar. They're clicking on it and putting in their credit card info, and then they're showing up for this consultation that they paid for, and 73% of those people became a customer. So they paid $97, and 73% of those people then paid me like $3,000. So it's like, okay, that works really well, and I've since switched, because that really does. I mean, you get fewer consultations. So then what I did is I decided to get more consultations, but then actually get my sale to convert higher. So now my sales convert at over 60% without a paid consultation, but I get more consultations because I'm not filtering with a purchase. So again, you're going to play with these levers and figure out what's right for you, and that's going to change depending on so many different factors, like how big your team is, how much money you have to generate leads, like what's going on in the industry or whatever. But
what's the numbers like coming into the webinar and the ones that actually sign up for the demo after? What was the drop off like between
coming into the webinar?
So the ones that sign up for the webinar.
Yeah, so we have about a 30% registration rate. So it's a really high conversion rate on the registration page, and then we have over a 43-44% show up rate, which is pretty good. And then the one thing I don't have a good handle on is how many people show up actually schedule a consultation. That's something that has just been tough to track properly. I'm not sure why, but I've got somebody now that's like basically dedicated to like literally just this week trying to really finalize getting everything sort of tooled up properly. So that's the one conversion point I'm not totally solid on, but what I've seen is out of the people that stay for the pitch, we have it's a 30% conversion rate on those people.
Right.
For the people that stick for the full hour, and then I pitch at around minute 50. Right.
So the pitch is for the consultation.
No, yeah, and that which is a free consultation, right? Yeah. So I've gone back to the free consultation. Right. Yeah.
With your niche being, let's say, relatively, not business-minded or maybe not, really technical or some of that. What are the calls to action for a webinar? So I find like in our industry, in the POS space, and you'll get some that are highly technical, but some who just have never heard of a webinar before, don't know what a conference is or something like that. So,
Oh yeah.
you know, you play with the CTAs.
Yeah. So we're kind of we're doing another round of like headline testing in the ads, but so I've been really focusing on the Montessori market just as like a beachhead, and the two that perform the best is like Montessori marketing masterclass, and yeah, so that worked. I think that's the one that's performed the best so far. Also like Facebook ads for Montessori. So my webinar is how to use Facebook ads to grow your enrollment. That's what the topic of the webinar is. And so yeah, so we don't really talk about, we don't use the word webinar because webinar means different things to different people. They think that's just a demo. A lot of people think a webinar is just a one-on-one demo because it's a web, you know, whatever. So masterclass or case study, use case study as well. Yeah.
So, is there anyone else here who would like to share their experience with generating sales leads for SaaS? We have Richard here from Applause, who joined us remotely. Richard, do you want to share your experience with that, with generating sales leads?
Yeah, it was really interesting. He mentioned a few things regarding sales being like ads. So what we do is at Applause, we do employee engagement. So we're mainly selling to HR, so HR directors, HR people, and the whole sales point is really the employees. So employees who are disengaged don't give a lot of efforts. Employees who are disengaged tend to leave sooner than later. So they're taking the training and they're not really beneficial to the company. So that's the whole sales pitch. They take less sick days and they're more motivated. So our platform software, what it does is that it makes it so that the employees feel more engaged because there's peer-to-peer recognition. So managers get to see what's going on there on the sales team, for example. But what I really liked about what Jono said about it's like media. People don't make the purchase on the first buy. So we had a lot of success when we started developing multiple touch points, whether it be Facebook ads linked with LinkedIn, would be InMail, Google AdWords, and so forth. Because what we realized with HR, we thought people were going to log in, sign into the free platform, and everything would be done that easy. We realized that no one was signing in, even with all those efforts and generating a lot of people. So we really had to change our pitch and really show the value. We did webinars not automated like UExpress, which was a great point. I definitely took some notes there. But we did webinars with like HR.com, which are niche markets, to try to touch their client base. But what we're really seeing success with is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So what we do is the sales team filters through. We could choose company sizes, geographic locations. We can even tag people, and whenever they're mentioned in a post or they comment somewhere or they're mentioned in an article, same thing as their company, we can then target them. So what we do is we reach out to them, we link whatever we see in the news, and then we target them with that piece. For example, Walmart shutting down a store and 1,000 employees are laid off. Well, then we'll use that as a way of, were they not engaged? Could they increase productivity so they didn't have to resort to that? So that helped us a lot in that point. So yeah, so that's basically the sales gen. We still do the landing page. So Google AdWords to landing page. We tailor it to either executives. So we'll talk more about the bottom line and how that could increase. And we have another landing page that targets more HR people. So spend less time trying to go buy gifts for your employees or years of service. And we try to put the added value, always having the call to action above the fold to be able to book those free demos. The only difference that our demos, we try to keep it super short. A quick 15-minute to 30-minute maximum overview. We lead with the benefit. We don't focus too much on the features. We have, for example, surveys, polls, marketplaces, design your perks. we really do a quick overview of everything to say how it can save them time in their workday or give them peace of mind, and take it from there. I don't know if I could hear you guys.
Somebody asked if, somebody asked if anybody here has tried AI lead generation tools. Have you?
No.
Well, we're assessing a tool right now, so I'm very curious if anybody.
What's its claim?
The claim is that they will take the place of do the work of 3 BDRs. So yeah, so basically it's an AI tool. You just tell it who you want to target, and it will generate those lists and send out emails to it. And you can also add in your own lists as well. Yeah. So it takes away a lot of the research work that a BDR would do to make that first initial contact. So yeah, so their sort of beginner packages start around like 750 new net contacts a month. Yeah.
I wonder like where it scrapes the information from, like from LinkedIn, like Facebook.
Yeah, they were very transparent about where they get their contacts. One of them was LinkedIn. Yeah, I can't recall off the top of my head all of them, but
Like integrate AI?
yeah, so it's an AI tool that generates lists. So you basically tell it what industry, what job title.
Is it called integrate AI?
This is the name of
Is
the
it
product.
Do they call Yeah, they're in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so actually, got an acquisition.
Oh.
So yeah, I was going to talk. So I was curious.
I've used AI for getting the contact information on LinkedIn. So
it's multiple sources.
yeah, no. So
so
I've used one of like I would say a part of the process that they're doing probably. So there's a company called Lucia. So if you have your own LinkedIn, whatever.
I tried Lucia before.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it kind of just
It's
generates
okay.
that. And then there's another one called LinkedIn Helper. Has anyone here tried that? Because what that does is it does kind of the job that you're suggesting this company does. It does it at scale as well. So you can set your patterns. It runs in the background, but you have to have access to LinkedIn. So you'll have to get a Sales Navigator account, but it can do that again at scale, like 200-300 a day or whatever. It kind of does something like that. So you can look it up if you want.
I know it does like a whole
Right. This one kind of does the introductions and things like that. But then that's what I said. So I've done parts of it, I would say, use a little bit of the help and then use Lucia to kind of get the details and then kind of do it ourselves to keep it. Because one of the things I would think that using AI, and there's no right or wrong, it could work for certain. I think what is really important for when you're selling is to know what vertical you are in, where you lie in the whole gamut of things. That's really important. Like what could work for you might not necessarily work for something else at all. Like if someone's generating 300 a day, 25 days later you've combed 7,500 contacts. For a lot of people, that's probably the market side of the area they exist in. Yeah. That's a lot. And what do I do with the second month? And what do I do with the third month? If we could hit 7,500 and your conversion rate in your industry is 7%, can you even like imagine that you're going to hit that? I think so. So you've got to kind of play that and balance it out in the sense that if it's for and what stage are you in the business as well? Like if you're a very established business and just the outreach is sort of opening the top of the funnel, great. But if you're in a business which is a newer startup or a scale up and you don't have the credibility behind you, you want very customized messages going out to people to even get their attention, the meetings, the conversations, right? Yeah. Because a larger, I work for a very established business. So as Jono's been using webinars, our whole business was around content in a B2B environment. All we did was create content, and content creation for us was literally free because we were in the business of data. We would collect data, we created the insight from the data, and we put it out as content. whether we went to exhibitions and conferences and panel discussions, whatever, that was content that used to go to our website and everybody used to download that. Or if we did webinars, or if we did state of the industry reports, that kind of stuff. Like that state of the industry report used to get downloaded 10,000 times in the market. A lot of them were repeat users as well, but we would almost always get newer leads coming through something like that. So I think it's a stage and age of business. In startups and scale-ups, the AI thing might kind of fall short a little bit. But if it's like one of those things, just creating top of the funnel and you're like a name that everyone knows and receive an email from you, just kind of rings a bell for them and they want to come back. Then you also want to take it a step further, then AI qualifies it back for you as well. It tells you which ones matter, rather than just doing that. So
yeah, that's a good point for sure.
I imagine the headlines and the content that they're viewing in the ad or in the messaging will play a big role.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the AI is playing with that, or you have to generate that yourself.
The company does the emails for you, so they can monitor them and they craft them and adjust them based on the performance.
So the AI is not doing the.
No, the
So
AI
typically with these things, the AI will look and then substitute and present the ones that are working the best.
Yeah, I can't remember if they set up the first emails and then it runs from there. But
The whole point of the AI is for the AI to do the work, not the human.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Maybe it's still AI in the making.
Yeah, maybe they're collecting data at this point to figure out, hey, what headlines work, I don't know.
They're still like in that very early stage, right?
Yeah, like you have to start with something, right?
Yes, no, fair enough, the industry would be specific,
And
but.
then as it learns, right, then it will adjust itself, but yeah.
So one thing that we're trying is, kind of going the opposite way. So I basically, there's this company in the Philippines called Callbox, and they do, they have a team. Yeah, and so I'm going to use them a little. We're going to test, like literally, they're going to launch it this week, and we're going to test using them differently than their regular use case. Like we don't want them scheduling demos for us, which is what they're having a hard time wrapping their heads around that, because like we just want them inviting people to the webinar. Right, like we just want to get the right people at the top of the funnel. Like the webinar it's a Ferrari engine at this point, and I just need premium gas going in, and so like I don't want to talk to people and I don't want my salespeople to talk to people if they haven't attended the webinar. Like my whole sales, my sales funnel and my sales call is like scripted at this point. And it's like my salespeople are actors. They're not trying to figure out what to say. I want them to figure out I want them to focus on performing the sale rather than figuring out what this person needs to say, because we have this incredibly tight profile. Everything we say, if they're the right person, is gonna strike them in their heart. You know what I mean? So like, so it's less of it uses all of the consultative sales best practices. Like if you read like spin selling and all that stuff, like all of that stuff is happening inside that, that hour-long call, but it generally takes an hour to close our customers, but we go through it and they're closed. And it's scripted. So it's like, I just want somebody to keep on getting people into that webinar.
So Jono, like you're using Webinar a lot. Richard from Applause using LinkedIn Navigator. Does anyone here use cold calling? Is cold calling dead?
I do cold calling.
You do cold calling.
And I do cold calling, yeah.
All right, why don't you share us your experience with cold calling? But
tough.
Yeah, is it tougher now than then?
Well, I don't know. I've been doing it only 3 months now.
3 months, okay. Yeah.
So what kind of customers are you calling?
Retailers.
Right.
Small to mid-sized retailers. So there are some of them are not really professional business people.
Yeah.
I often talk to gatekeepers. Usually the owners are not there, and then so I have to talk to gatekeepers, and then oftentimes the more successful the retailers are, the retailer is, it's harder to access the owner because like owners don't work at the store. So yeah, it takes a longer process to get to them.
So my experience with cold calling is that basically I started my career at a tech company in Montreal called IU Media, where we were selling Wi-Fi solutions, digital signage, and digital menu boards. So then my boss was like, hey, why don't you target the transportation industry and sell them Wi-Fi solutions, onboard Wi-Fi solutions. This was back in 2014, 15. And this, a lot of charter buses at that time, they still didn't have Wi-Fi solution, right? They didn't even think that they should bring it to their customers and make it part of the customer journey during that 8-hour travel, or during, like when they're taking videos or posting them on Instagram. I think that time Instagram wasn't popular yet, but like if you're in a tour bus and you're a tourist, you're not really from Canada, you don't really have a lot of data, then Wi-Fi is a really good solution, right? So then part of my job at that time was like really make a list of all these business owners who own charter buses and called them. My boss was like, call them. And I was so scared of cold calling. This was my first time. And, I had to put myself out there. I had to roll up the sleeves, literally, and call them, to speak to the gatekeepers, get them to, have their bosses to call me back. A lot of the times it would take 20 phone calls for me to reach somebody, and then a lot of the times I would always leave a voice message, and then I would follow up with an email saying, hi, I was trying to reach you, I couldn't reach you, I left you a voice message, here's what we do. And I didn't even have a customer base, and I was targeting Ontario at that time. But finally, I had one business owner who believed in me, and he believed in the products. I pitched it to him using WebEx. So it's kind of like a webinar. And he liked it, he tried it, he ordered one Wi-Fi unit, and then he ordered one more, and I used him as a reference. Mm-hmm. So I called everyone else who are part of this association for charter buses, and I said, this guy is using it, why are you not using it? And it became a domino effect. And then from there, it became easier for me to just send emails when I couldn't reach them, because I would say in my email, here are the people in your industry, or here are the companies in your industries who are using our solution.
Yeah, that's called phone wall, right?
Yeah. And then, but then it started with cold calling, right? Because when you're speaking to them on the phone, it's easier for them to trust you. And I've never met any of these customers.
See, that's the point. Like, the first one's going to be the hardest.
Yeah, the first one is the hardest.
The second one's slightly easier. The third,
yeah,
easier. And then it is a domino.
I'll tell you something about cold calling. The more calls you make, the easier it gets.
Yeah, exactly. So because, it's easier.
Yeah. So the only thing you have to remember with cold calling is just keep calling.
Keep calling, exactly.
That's the only thing, next.
Yeah.
And as you go through, you will start to figure out
exactly.
The terminology, the language, the keywords, just like advertising. Each industry has a language that they use, and you have to learn the language. And when you use that language in that industry, they start to respond to you. And if you don't know that language initially, it'll take a whole bunch of calls, and then you start to realize, because of the conversations that you have.
Yeah.
One other mechanical thing that you should know is, if you want to reach bosses, if they're really serious, they're usually there before the employees in the morning. The gatekeepers are not there until 9 o'clock. So if you call before 9 o'clock, you will reach the bosses. Yeah. And the gatekeepers are not there after 5 o'clock. And if you call, you'll reach the bosses.
Yeah, that
if you really want to reach the bosses, those are the two primary times that you want to call. The rest of the day is a waste of time.
Nice.
I totally agree with you, and I definitely experienced that. I had a mentor, and he was a senior sales person in that company, and that's what exactly he told me. He was like, call before 9 and call after 5. I was like, okay, let me try this, and it did work.
Don't call during the day, do anything else, but
they're busy, right? You don't want to talk to another salesperson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
very, very effective to reach owners.
What I found was we had we went through 3 junior salespeople, just trying to get them to cold call and all of this, and even if they finally did get through to a gatekeeper, we get a lot of tire kickers. just, oh, well, that sounds interesting, but it wasn't that they were really, didn't really have the, the budget and the urgency and any of that. So we just stopped talking, and we found that, through channel, through social and just, ads, we're getting people who are actually looking for what we have to offer.
Really?
The tire kickers were wasting so much
It's a
time.
pull and a push strategy in a lot of ways, right? Like you can have the push strategy. It used to work a little bit differently before, when there was sort of no LinkedIn, a dearth of information, not knowing who the owner sort of is, you're trying the yellow pages or whatever. Like it's changed. Technology, media, the personalization of media has changed so much. Like your ads and what they're doing is literally doing the cold call in a lot of ways. Like that ad is so targeted to this profile, to this owner. It's not going to the secretary, it's going to the owner. Because all of us gave our data to Facebook. And they built an amazing thing out of it, which is used by literally every business, small or large, to kind of get your marketing message. I mean, Facebook.com only monetizes advertising on one channel, which is Facebook.com, based on the information that people have sold, like given away without charging for it. And that's what they're amazingly monetizing. And that's why sometimes you will see now in the way that people are looking at their business outreach, and if sales and marketing are coming together more than ever before, the top of the channel right to the bottom for more complicated sales belongs to marketing. The job of salespeople is to come in and navigate and help close mostly, because a lot of the decisions are made in information seeking stages. Like when they are looking for a POS.
The way I describe that is the job of marketing is to bring people to the door.
Yeah.
The salesperson's job is to invite them in. And if marketing's not bringing them to the door, you're wasting time.
I mean, you're just calling by.
Yeah, so the cold calling works very effectively for high value targets. If you know specifically who the customer is and what your value proposition is for that particular customer, then you can call till the cows come home and it'll be worth it at the end of the day because the value of the sale is worth it.
Yeah.
So, but if that value sale is too low, you can't do it. It's a total waste of time.
Yeah, we found that as we change our packages and we have more lower price point packages, it's not worth paying the salary of someone to do the cold calling anymore. So yeah, we have one for some enterprise level packages and higher salesmen, but we're midway
Yeah.
on the cold calling. Yeah.
Wow, so it's really changing, like
Yeah.
that landscape is changing.
I think it's a little bit generational too.
It's generational.
Yeah, like it's hard. So like more, mature business owners, like that's more their generation's cold calling.
Yeah.
Younger,
They don't even like to talk on the phone anymore, right?
Yeah, like someone is very invasive, right? So then it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
Exactly.
taking my space here. So yeah.
It's like now people are scared whenever someone buzzes their door. They're like, who is there,
Yeah.
Or someone is knocking, right? But I guess the same thing with cold calling because people are so not used to like talking on the phone anymore. Now you have someone calling you and they want to you never spoken to them, you have no idea who they are. So yeah, it does make sense what you're saying.
Well, that makes me think that maybe I should start using Facebook. Because a lot of actually our customers, prospective customers, like they're not really on LinkedIn. Like some more enterprise-minded customers, prospective customers are on LinkedIn. But yeah, but because our customers are more in a business of B2C, so they tend to be more on Facebook. I'm kind of I haven't really experimented yet, but I'm thinking maybe I should try.
Do you have the
messaging.
leeway to choose a niche market and see how you do it?
Yeah. So I'm trying to be more strategic, in terms of I can really call anybody, but then that doesn't really guarantee any monthly revenue. So that I'm kind of trying to be more strategic in terms of looking for people with potential paid and also money and the right fit. So that I don't necessarily waste my time. What are you doing?
Have you tried Instagram?
I have. It's just that again, I have essentially our benchmark is determined by the number of calls that we make. So Instagram, like reaching out to via Instagram doesn't really count, but in terms of like being efficient, I think like for instance, like Facebook and Instagram may be more efficient, like in terms of reaching out to potential like our customers and rather than just calling.
I've seen like crazy success on Instagram, not ads or.
This is for B2B?
Yeah. But again, like retailers.
Yeah.
And what was really surprising was I just started to just kind of chat with them on their posts and whatever, but it was actually led by one of our first merchants who reached out and sent us a direct message asking the question. And I was like, oh, maybe other people will be open to getting a direct message this way because it's not overdone like Twitter and Twitter killed direct messages. So I just kind of reached out, maybe I'll post one of their posts on our story and just kind of maybe keep comment about it, or so I thought, and then reach out in a direct message. Just saying, hey, we've got this, this e-guide, would you mind if I send it your way? And I've been so shocked at even, in a tier size business that I've gotten a response right away. To it, here's our email, go ahead and reach out. So it's been really successful.
It really does matter vertical by vertical. Like I was consulting with a company for sustainability, mobility startup, and LinkedIn wasn't doing well, even though we wanted head of sustainability, perks and benefits kind of people, it wasn't. But again, if you get onto a sort of less formal channel, the conversation really does become a conversation, and you're treated a little bit of an equal, I would think. Whereas if you're on the sales side and then you're just pitching in a formal email or through a LinkedIn message, I think that the relationship is not one of equality. Unless, of course, you come in with the reputation and the company, whatever. So it depends in a lot of ways and the audience defines sort of what works.
We've had the exact same messaging on LinkedIn and it's zero response. People just don't want to bother there because they're sold to a lot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I find that right now the LinkedIn feed is just absolutely full of advertising. It drives me crazy. I'm just scanning through now. It's just like a waste of time.
Yeah.
So,
And personally, I don't like receiving automated sales emails.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's so impersonal. I don't even bother opening it. Personally, but then I don't mind if someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn because they can't find my email address, but then they have to make it, customized.
If somebody sends me,
person.
you have to be the right person looking to solve the right problem.
Yeah.
That's where it has to start. But I've gotten some cold emails where I'm like, damn, I'm impressed. I'm gonna reply because I'm like, yeah, the guy struck me right through my heart. You know what I mean? There's something that he nailed me. He's got me down. And I was like, okay, I'll talk to you. It was that good. It was just a couple sentences, but you can do a really good job. You just gotta really know your market, and that's why I'm always telling everybody
so
niche down.
One thing I found, I was selling e-commerce systems a while back, and what I found is the people who are making the decisions are interested in two things. It's either how can you make me money? How can you save me money? And if you can tackle either of those things in very short, precise manner, they will respond. That's it. And if you're not addressing that in a cold email or in your messaging lead or whatever, waste of time.
Saving money and
Making money, saving money. That's
and
it.
getting a promotion.
Making money, saving money. That's it. Don't talk about anything else. It's a complete waste. Nobody cares about the features in your product.
That's for sure.
Money, how do I save money?
Yeah. And I always, when I'm talking to my salespeople, I'm always going over this strategy or this point with them. It's like, in sales, anybody is just trying to get to a result, right? And everyone it's like, benefits instead of features, but really I think it's results. When you are, and I learned this the hard way, but I spent a lot of time, doing demos, with my live product, showing them a bunch of features, right? And then I was just like, then I stopped and I just made a slide deck of just like, yeah, I barely go into features. Like I never, it's hardly ever about features. I just focus on case studies, a customer just like them. This is where they were. This is where we got them to. And like, these are the results that they got. These are the results that you can expect by doing A, B, and C. And then I just kind of breeze over the A, B, and C because they don't care, because they're just trying to get from this desert island to the tropical oasis. And they don't care if it's a rowboat or a rocket ship that takes them there, right? They just want to get there. Like they want to, like they want you to show them that you're going to get them there, whatever your way is. They don't really care, you know, as long as, you know, within reason, but it's not about the features. Like,
Results.
So like results meaning like how much more money you can make, or
Or how you, and I guess
Well,
how
I
you
mean,
can solve them. I mean, I guess-
You're selling POS systems. I've been at checkouts where you'd think it was really simple, you know, scan, whatever, boom, and you're done. And they're there, you know, click, 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 and you're standing there like, what are they doing? Right? And I want to pay, I want my coffee, I want to get out of here. And, you know, I don't know what system they're using, but obviously the system is asking them for other information, you know, who I am, what I'm doing, what I'm wearing, I don't know, they're trying to collect some data, and this person is inputting that information while I'm sitting there waiting for my coffee. Like, I've got 3 seconds, get me my damn coffee, get me out of there, you know, don't mess with the rest of it. So if the systems, you know, can somehow, you know, speed up that process, which is typically what the retail issue is, you know, look at Christmas, when everybody is shopping and you got, you know, 10,000 people in the line. I can't tell you how many times I left products and just left the store.
Yeah,
Because I absolutely refuse, you know, to stand there in those crazy lineups.
Yeah.
So if your POS system can't get me through faster or help with those bottlenecks, I'm not interested.
That's why Amazon is what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a niche thing. Like as a business, you've got to also identify what you're going to leave on the table.
Yeah.
Like some businesses just want those people who want to queue up and get them packed nicely and take them away.
I don't shop at Walmart for that reason. I hate Walmart for that reason. You know, you can have the cheapest prices and not lining up for 25 minutes to check out. Sorry, ain't gonna happen. You know, so I'll go to Loblaws, I'll pay the premium, and I'll walk out.
yeah, I just spent way too much on pants because I went to Nordstrom and I just didn't want to. I fucking hate shopping for clothes. And they have people there that shop for you. It's like, wow. And I was like, holy shit, those are expensive, but okay. And then my wife told me, well, you gotta tell them like the range.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't know they had the price ranges. Spent way too much money. Anyways, but it was magical. I just stood there. They brought stuff to me.
Yeah.
It fit. They were good. You know, like, I hate shopping. Anyways, totally
Maybe like
unrelated.
someone should start creating some sort of Uber for shopping experience.
Well, it's pretty much there now, anyway. I mean,
Right? They just deliver you your clothes too, right?
Yeah, some of them.
They're pretty old last time.
Yeah, some of them are doing that, right? You just, you know, you pick it up, whatever, and they deliver it for you.
Yeah. And they can shop for you too, I guess. Just tell them what you're looking for.
Well, there are some services.
There's digital concierges.
Yeah, there
that market, there is products out there now.
Yeah, there was a service out in the UK actually talking about AI, and I logged in, and you couldn't see anything until you went through a series of pictures of people dressed in very similar ways, very subtle differences, and I forget how many images there were.
So you get your preferences.
You had to pick the preferences, whatever, and then they asked you, what are you shopping for today? And they would zoom right in on pants, and that's all you saw, and you only saw the pants in the styles that you had checked off, and the color that you said, and the size that you said. That was it. And they, you know, talk about narrowing the funnel.
Yeah, that sounds
They
great.
just zoomed right in, and that was
You
it.
enjoyed that experience, you thought that was.
I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes. And then like,
Well, I found lots of shirts now, so.
well, then I click on the shirt button. Okay, there. But I said when I was looking for pants, and generally with guys, I mean, when you go to a shop, you're looking for shirts, you're looking for pants, you're looking for a suit. You know, you're in, you're out. You're not sort of browsing.
Oh, God.
When I was a kid, like you just go to like the store with your parents and there'll be somebody bringing some clothes and it wasn't like an expensive thing, it was a normal service. Everybody had a small pound of shops.
Yeah.
They were just like find some stuff. It's weird, like it's just how.
Yeah. Every time I go to Zara, it's like, can somebody like
Oh,
not,
I need Zara.
like, like the clothes, but
Yeah.
so.
It's a mess, like the one in Eden Center.
Yeah.
So this is now the retail bitching meetup.
Whose fault is that?
Lots of name dropping there. I hope Zara was listening.
They need some help with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that format works. Somebody.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's 7:51 p.m. Does anyone else want to share some experience or have any questions? Richard, I know are you still there?
I am.
I hope you're enjoying this, even though you're not physically with us.
That's it. Next time I have to physically be there. So it's up for me next time.
Okay, well, there's plenty left. I'll ship it over.
Sounds good.
I have a question for everyone, sorry. Like any tips on email marketing to share? I would appreciate it.
Let's try to narrow it down.
Like in terms of messaging itself? Any tips?
The subject really matters. You got to play with the subject, short, concise. You got to remember that probably most people are reading it first on their phone, and only so many words show up in the title, in the subject. So you have to make sure that whatever shows gets their attention immediately. And again, it's got to be focused around making money, saving money.
You would include that in subject line.
Something that indicates that in the subject line.
I would, and I would play with test really extreme differences, meaning so subject lines like focus first on like value propositions, like the big things, and then as far as like the content in the email, like try really short and try really long. You know what I mean? Like don't, because when you start trying these things, and if you have something that allows you to track it, then you want to see what, but definitely, first you start with getting opens, like that's based on the subject line and maybe the preview, right? And then from there, like so that's what gets opens, and then what gets clicks or whatever it is, replies or clicks, is going to be the content. And if you're trying to, there's a lot of theories out there based off, what people see, but everything's industry specific. So industry and like buyer persona specific. So you got to figure out what works for you. And so if you're trying to start a conversation, make sure you're asking questions. There's some really good plugins that help you very quickly. Like Boomerang has Boomerang for Gmail has this thing that's like, as you're typing, it's like rating your thing for responsibility.
Oh, yes.
Responsibility, not responsive. And responsibleness. I don't know what it's called. Responsive. No. Responsive ability. Like how able it is to get responses.
Yeah. HubSpot also has a bunch of white papers out there on subject lines and different things that work. But again, it's industry specific, so you may want to go top 10, subject lines for your industry, POS industry, and see what shows up.
What I do as well is go and subscribe to a whole bunch of your competitors. And
That's a good
see
idea.
what they send, and then test out. Do something that's similar, not quite, and do something completely the opposite. See what plays better.
And then random things like, I found like meeting requests in the subject line sometimes. It gets really good response depending on who I'm interacting with. So nothing related to your industry or whatever, just meeting request, and then get into it below, and they'll click and open up.
What software are you using?
Yeah, so it's random.
We use Gmail, and then also like we have mail track, but it doesn't only track open, like mail open, not like how long they stayed on it or.
Yeah, like Boomerang has I mean, there's a bunch of these out there now, but Boomerang has a bunch of great, really smart features for like individual email tracking. So you can send it, and then if it doesn't reply, if you don't get a reply or something by a certain time, it'll pop it back up so you can respond. And then it's got calendar integration. So if they I mean, it's cool. I like it a lot. But there's other suites out there that have all the same features. But and then Google's starting to build their own now. Gmail is just
we don't
native now.
We don't pay for subscriptions for those add-ons though, because like mail check is free. That's why we have it. Like we're not paying for it.
Are you using your own device, or is it a company?
Well, I use my Mac computer. I mean, that's provided by the company, but
But you can install plugins.
Oh yes.
So
it's just that I'm not just go ahead and then I can't go ahead and just subscribe and then expense it. Like I need.
Sure.
To,
but you might make more money if you
Yeah.
pay for it yourself. It's just something to think about.
Yeah.
You're always in the business of you.
From like some software listing sites like Capterra, G2, stuff like that. Some of them, like the G2.com, I think. Like if you list their software there, and just some of them don't have many reviews. If you just get lots of reviews, you can get a lot of leads from them. Like the people from the company will tell us basically there's always leads on the admin panel. They can't really show you unless you pay them. But then they say, okay, well, if you get more than 5 reviews, for example, for this category, then suddenly you're pretty much at the top there.
Right.
Both of those platforms are my favorite way. If you're paying for advertising and listing, they will create the reviews for you.
Yeah, that's not.
You need to know how to use G2 Crowd, you need to know how to use Capterra. If you're
They all take their own strategy.
If you're experienced in selecting, you'll see that it's paid to play. The bigger boys, when they make that chart, like we always used to pay for faster research, but when you pay for faster research, you were almost assured you will be on the right quadrant somehow or the other.
Yeah.
They will, if you're in the business of research, if the pizza company is paying for research, pizza will always be healthy. They'll ask you questions that make it sound like pizza is healthy. Who commissions the research?
Pizza's not healthy.
There are vegetables on it.
It's just tomato.
And some protein. Or like vegetables. Okay, all right. So I guess this is the end of the discussion. I hope everyone enjoyed it and everyone has
Please take food.
take food. Yeah. You can
It's
eat it.
super healthy, guys. Come on.
It's health food.
Yeah.
It's a good pre-workout meal,
Yeah. It's good motivator to go work out.
All right.
Yeah. So by the way, so everybody, so we have a Slack group. So we'll send out a link to the Slack group that you can join, and we're doing these. We haven't nailed down the date for the next one yet, have we?
It's gonna be in September. Sometime in September.
Yeah, like probably third week of September, we're thinking. So it'll be.
There's Elevate.
Elevate. Yeah, we're going to. We're gonna compete. We're gonna take out Elevate this year. That's our goal for next month.
There's also the
TIFF Schmiff. Elevate Schmelevate.
Actually, they may not be able to get here because of TIFF.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. There's a lot to consider. But sign up to join us in Slack and also join our Toronto SaaS Meetup page so you can always stay updated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, thank you. And feel free to stay if you want to eat and chat with us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, bye, Richard.
See you, Richard. Thanks for
Thanks,
joining.
guys. Take care.
Okay, that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.